Hello, everyone, and welcome to this short talk on developers write code, not content. So, thank you very much for having me and including me in this event. So, what we're going to cover here today is I'll do a bit of introduction on myself, Andrew, and a bit of an introduction on StackBit and what StackBit is. Next, we'll talk about why am I making this appeal? Why are we making this appeal to developers? What are the problems? What are the pains? How does it impact organizations, collaboration, value creation, time to market? Why are we saying, hey, developers, write code, not content? Next, we'll dive into some enterprise acronyms to know. There is a tremendous amount of enterprise acronyms that are cropping up every single year, and we'll do a quick evaluation, quick glossary, and I'll highlight why that's important. And then finally, we'll get into a bit of a demo where I can show how to leverage JavaScript, how to leverage StackBit, how to write code and build these composable experiences, therefore enabling others to write content, build experiences. So really bring that content code design together while leveraging JavaScript. So first off, I'm Andrew Kumar. I lead go-to-market efforts and partner ecosystem here at StackBit, and I've been a software developer for about 10 years before moving into program management and product management, and now product delivery and distribution. So really exciting, kind of windy career path on my way here, and really excited to be talking to you all here today. Um, so I'm going to start off talking about StackBit, but first off, we have this nice testimonial from one of our customers where if marketing won't put their budget behind StackBit, I will give them my salary to make it work. This is from a senior engineer. We're really focused on bridging the gap between marketing and content ops and engineering and development with our work here at StackBit. And so what StackBit provides and what StackBit is it's really a visual interface for headless tech stack. And that's really important. So having headless CMS or some sort of API-based CMS is usually where we fit in, and we sit on top of those headless data sources. It could be an e-commerce platform. It could be a variety of different things. StackBit also supports many open source initiatives, so Daisy UI, Content Layer, and JAMstack themes. We're a collaboration tool for digital teams, so bringing together development, engineering, design. We're a page builder. So you're actually seeing me use StackBit. This presentation is powered by StackBit, and I can kind of click in and edit and make changes and assemble my page pretty quick, and my sidebar is changing coincidentally. And we support all JavaScript front-end and rendering frameworks. So this particular instance that I'm using to drive this presentation is using Next.js and TypeScript React. But we support any of the rendering engines, any of the frameworks. So whether you're Vue or VuePress or Vite or Angular, we have support for kind of everything. So why are we making this appeal? Why write code and not content? And where this came from, and I've been doing these surveys as I go to meetups and then different events and speaking at a variety of different areas. I've been polling the audience, putting out surveys, and what I keep coming up against, and it's almost consistent no matter what city I'm in. I'll ask an audience how many developers are doing content entry and putting content or data into some sort of system or into the code directly. And about 50% of the audience raises their hands everywhere I go. And then I'll ask the other 50%, okay, what are you working on where you're not dealing with content? And usually there's some data entry, maybe, but it's generally just they've been able to avoid any kind of marketers, merchandisers, content ops. And so there's this 50-50 divide. Of the 50% that are developing and doing some sort of content entry or content insertion, it can take anywhere from 4 to 20 hours a week. So that's a tremendous amount of time not writing code and not working on problems, but actually just doing kind of rote content entry that's coming in through some sort of ticketing system, coming from marketing, coming from a different team elsewhere in the building, and then having to put it up on a website, on a web application, mobile application, that kind of thing. So that's reason number one is there's a significant amount of time of developers doing content entry, and we argue that can be pushed upstream to a marketing team, to a content ops team. The secondary reason is this notion of technical versus business user. And so as everyone becomes some variation of digital savvy, even business users are becoming very technical. They may not know how to write code, but they can usually use some sort of interface, some sort of tooling if it's provided to them, if it's built for them to be able to do some technical tasks and taking things like content entry off of the developer's shoulders. There's also an average 16 to 1 business users to developers in an enterprise, depending on the enterprise, but that's just the average. So there's a tremendous opportunity to tap into the colleagues, to tap into their expertise and get them supporting and helping build digital apps, digital experiences, mobile apps, that kind of thing. So I'm going to shift focus here and kind of dive into this diagram. So in this diagram, what we're seeing here is this need, this kind of end-to-end flow, but I'm starting backwards. I'm starting with the end customers and end users. And in a large enterprise, in a large organization, those end users and customers might be engaging across several different websites, kiosks, smart devices, mobile watches. So, and the teams that are building those experiences for the end customers and users, usually a mixed team of marketing, content ops, merchandising, product management, design, and dev. So there's a need to or potential need or opportunity to really inject this experience builder in live preview. Now, where design and dev comes in is building up those components and template libraries, building out an API interface, the ability to read from those headless data sources to create, read, update, and delete, and facilitate information from different databases and data stores into that experience builder with a live preview. Live preview is pretty important for approvals and just to make sure there's proper QA and testing. And then finally, having some design system in the front end. So having a really nice code base and having a design system to enable that kind of composable experience building. Now, a developer has to deal with all of the application code, delivery configuration, what framework to use, how to render the layouts, what kind of SDKs to include to derive and source content from content systems, commerce systems, any sort of data or tagging to track things, and then finally, yeah, the design components. So that's the why, is really bringing together this package and enabling all the different users across a digital website, web application, mobile application to get it from code to customer. Now we're going to shift gears here. So what has happened is there has been a lot of, I use them like business terms or acronyms or kind of glossary of terms that have cropped up over the last 3 to 5 years. And to a certain degree, they've cropped up because they're all trying to solve this problem. And so now we have a myriad of different approaches, different terms, different vernacular, all kind of focused on solving these problems. So JAMstack is kind of the first one I'm going to go through. It was originally cased with a capital JAM, where JAM stood for JavaScript API and markup. JavaScript really opened the doors for developers to build sites that were more secure, scalable, performant, and cost effective in an era where websites and web apps were a bit more of a headache. So JAMstack was kind of the kind of what got the ball rolling. Very, very good for developers and developer tooling. And then headless CMS has started to hit the market. And the term headless refers to removing any dependency of knowing where the data will be displayed and just holding the data to be used wherever the developer chooses. So a headless CMS can store content in one spot, and then the APIs in a JAMstack website, or that A part, it can retrieve and source content and put it into the particular website, web app, or mobile app, either on the fly or pre-rendered. So this is often headless is often used to describe a CMS where content can be authored, stored, and then delivered to one or many applications that determine how the content is displayed. So you can have your headless CMS power and the same content power a website, but also a mobile app or many different websites or many different channels. An important part of a headless CMS is content model and structured content. So a content model gives structure and organization to the content that's stored in the headless CMS. Within the overall content model, you'll have content types, and content types can be collected together like an outline. So kind of the schema of how content is stored. You can think of content type as a stencil or drawing. That will be the framework for the entry. Design systems have started to take shape. Design system is a complete set of standards to manage design at scale using reusable components and patterns. I have been in scenarios where I've worked at organizations and they've had 20 different buttons and code for 20 different buttons and React components for 20 different buttons. They all kind of look the same, but they had slightly different variations. And that's where design system really comes in handy to reconcile. Code once, reuse everywhere, to reconcile the amount of variability and minimize the amount of components. So design and development work can be created and replicated quickly at scale, alleviates strain on design resources so they can focus on larger, more complex problems. So you design a button once, you don't have to worry about designing a button over and over again. Creates a unified language within cross-functional teams, so dev and design can collaborate more effectively because there's like a dictionary between the two. Creates visual consistency across products and channels and potentially siloed departments. Now, this comes in handy for that end customer experience when they're using websites and apps based on your organization. They understand and know and can engage and only have to learn once to figure out how to use your website or use your web app or mobile app. Um, and it can serve as an educational tool for new team members, new developers, and designers joining the team. The next one is Site Builder. So Site Builder is an engine that enables rapid design, rapid development of digital experiences. So I am demoing and building out my slides on a Site Builder, and StackBit is one of the tools that really does site building, but also mobile app building and web application authenticated building. So it's a cross-product platform combining content, design, and code in one place. Teams are given some pre-approved building blocks to build out pages quickly. These blocks can be edited, reordered, personalized, and changed kind of on the fly. Once these blocks have been created on a page, minimal development effort is required. So developers still need to set up everything, maintain the guardrails, but the day-to-day tasks of just making changes and edits and fixing typos no longer needs to go into a Jira ticket, which then goes to a developer. A business user or a content operator or marketer can just go in and make the changes as necessary. Now we're talking about composable. So sometimes, we need to create experiences that are modular based on a series of different React components and sections. But we also might have different data sources. So we might have content in a content management system, products in an e-commerce system or PIM. So the architecture that supplies the website or web app might be modular. And this is very handy to provide flexibility and agility. Also, if one of the pieces is not very good, you can just kind of swap it out and swap it back in with something that better meets the needs of the organization. So composable architecture is very handy. Composable experience is very handy. Again, all powered by API first platforms and tools. And now we're getting into the enterprise, more enterprise speak. So mock is kind of along the same lines, and you can kind of see there's quite a bit of overlap, but also quite a bit of evolution as we go down. So mock stands for microservices, API first, cloud native, and headless. So mock architecture is intended to future-proof enterprise technology and propel and make current digital experience creation faster. So M is all about individual pieces of business functionality. So having that microservice, all functionality is exposed through an API. Everything lives in a cloud. So SaaS that leverages cloud beyond storage and hosting, just for scale. And then front-end presentation is decoupled from back-end logic. That way that effort that is put in is reusable, like that content, like the headless CMS. We're also seeing DXP. So kind of the older school content management or web management or commerce management systems are starting to rebrand themselves as DXPs for a digital experience platform. So you get a bit more of an integrated and cohesive, tightly coupled technology group or set of technologies, including content management, your hosting, your search, your commerce, and others. And over time, I suspect DXPs will also will remove those tight couplings so you can push that application to any of the many cloud hosts. So you can plug in different content management or plug in different search or commerce tools. And this brings us to the last acronym in the mix, which is DXC, which is brand new. It's about 6 months old. So it's this emerging category of tooling it stands for digital experience composition. So it's emerging category of tooling. And StackBit also, Site Builder also kind of fits into this DXC, where it's sitting on top of one-to-many different APIs and different composable technology tools. So we got to thank Gartner. Gartner really, and they released an innovation insight, and they've really coined this term back in July of 2022. But ultimately, it's leveraging all of these terms, all of these tools, all of these technology patterns to enable that broad base of users to collaborate together, to work together, to build experiences, websites, and apps. And JavaScript is a very, very important piece of this puzzle because it's the piece that's powering all of these terms. So features of a DXC can include no-code page builders, low-code front-end components and libraries, which is predominantly React, TypeScript, some Angular, some Vue. template engine, API integrations, so all those APIs being written across a variety of different tools and underlying content. So all in the service and development and maintenance of digital experiences. So there is a lot there, really, really quickly. We've if you go to stackbit.com, we have this glossary and resources kind of littered throughout the website, where we have these available with a bunch of learn more links to learn more about those enterprise tools, enterprise vernacular. So the last part is really now getting into the demo and getting into the code. So what we're seeing here is a page builder, and that members of my team have put together that I've worked on. And what this allows me to do is really quickly make changes, really quickly make edits. But what's powering this is a few different things. So one, I have a collection of components that I can reuse. And so here's kind of a visual rendering of different components and different sections that all map. And I have my landing pages, I have my migration guides, I have pricing tables. So these are all React TypeScript components that have been built in the template. So I'm going to switch demo environments here and look at another one. So here's another demo environment where with this one, I'm plugged into Contentful. So any change I make on this text will use Contentful's content management API, push that change back to Contentful's management API, and then using the Contentful preview API, we'll bring it back. Now bring it back into StackBit, and then StackBit will provide that rendering or that view. Now, what I'm going to dive into here is I'm going to start to look at the code. So the first thing that's needed to enable unlock. So say you already have an existing Next.js application. It may be powered by Markdown files. It may be powered by a headless CMS like Contentful or Sanity or something else. The first step is really this kind of, we call it a configuration. So the configuration tells StackBit a little bit about what headless source or what content is, or where the content is stored. So this is what a configuration file looks like. So what is the StackBit version? It's almost always that. What is the SSG name? So what static site generator are you using? What node version? What's the CMS name? And what's the source of your models? And then StackBit will go and retrieve all of the content models that have been structured and in that headless CMS, and provide a rendering or a view of where the blog posts are, so that content authors and editors can find what they're looking for, right? So I have 4 different landing pages, and I can go in, then I can click here to see preview, and it will refresh. The secondary step then is setting up the components. So each of these sections is a component. So I look at my code, I go into, so this is all reading from a third-party GitHub repository, so your code can be hosted wherever you want to host, and StackBit is just sitting on top of that existing code base. So there's no code being stored in StackBit, there's no content being stored in StackBit, so there's no production dependencies. We kind of just sit as this management layer. So if I go into my source, I go into my components, and then I go into my sections, I can see I have for each section, each kind of row, I have a different component. So if I want to look at, for example, let's see here. Let's find a featured people section. So then I'll go back into StackBit. I'll look for my featured people here. Oh, I may not have a featured people. So let's go add one. So I'm going to go in here, and we'll go kind of at the bottom of the page, and I'll add a section, create new. I'll look for my featured people. I'll drop in a featured people. So this component library, this featured people section, what you're seeing here is a visual rendering of what those components look like. So it's the same component in the same content type or same model. So same code, one code base, but 2 different views. And I can see the different variations in the views. So when I click into here, you can see I have my title being powered, and I have an image and a collection of images. So if I go back to my code and I look at my featured people code base, here's the code. It's just a normal React component. There's nothing special in it. And then what we're seeing here is there is, you can kind of see I have my props coming in, so my featured people props coming in, and I have my variants codified here, and different actions. So I have here. I'm gonna make this wider here, um, so you can see I have this data SB field path people. So this is what's helping tell StackBit what is mapped to what. So to map these headshots to the appropriate to and make this editable in the front end, so that StackBit knows to write any changes back to the right field. So there's this notion of annotations. That is the only thing needed in a standard kind of React component or TypeScript component to tell StackBit where that content lives. And then you can kind of see at the top here, we will have section. So each of these, there's another one here called title. So data SB field path title, and that will map to the title, and the title block. So again, just matching the prop to the field in Contentful, and that's all that's necessary. And then from that, StackBit will be able to say, okay, any changes made on this field will propagate to the right field in Contentful. So pretty lightweight implementation of just adding these annotations. Again, everything is documented in our docs. You can also do all of this. There's a local development mode, so you can pull down everything. Prefer to develop locally, so I can pull down everything to my local, and then that way any changes I made in local will get pushed back to the preview branch of this GitHub repository. Once it's in the preview branch of the GitHub repo, it will show up in StackBit right away, so you can develop and preview pretty quickly and easily together. And then the last thing I wanted to show is this notion of, so we have the ability to create components and component presets. So defining component presets. So after the React component, everything is imported. You can take a screenshot of it and drop it into this folder called presets, and the presets will provide, so they're just a standard kind of JSON image that shows there's an image block that's a rendering of what the block looks like. There's some dummy data that becomes part of the preset to be able to bootstrap and make it easier for content authors to just get going really quickly. And then these presets can also be stacked and to create page templates. So you have your empty page, you have your pricing page, you have your main page. So presets are a very powerful way where developers can codify and store different starter kits for their business users, for their content authors, and then those content authors will be able to just simply add a section, take one of these visual areas, and they're off to the races. And then any sort of changes, again, no more Jira tickets for simple content entry items. So again, providing that kind of autonomy to technical business users, content operators, marketers, is why we are making this appeal that developers spend time building really good components, building really good visual elements, and less time worrying about content. So yeah, that is all I have for today. Thank you very much for watching this presentation, and I wish you the best for 2023. Thank you very much.